Hi class, welcome to this intro video on Intro to StatCrunch. So I want to show you a few things about StatCrunch that might help you to get started with StatCrunch. The first thing I want to do is show you underneath Tools for Success. There are some StatCrunch video tutorials right here. If you click this link, it actually takes you out to YouTube, but you can see that there's anything from a getting started, a full length to a shorter version, and then things like creating bar plots and pie charts, frequency tables, anything that you might need to do within StatCrunch. The videos are here and pretty short and pretty helpful. So I actually want to now go into StatCrunch and show you a little bit about the software and how to actually do things within StatCrunch. So to get into StatCrunch, there's a couple different ways. You click this link on the menu on the left side of the page. You click the link that says StatCrunch, and then there's a couple different options here. There's datasets from your textbook, which opens up a page where you can get basically lots of pre-programmed data sets. And right now I know we just finished chapter 2, and so if you looked at the PowerPoint for chapter 2, there are some of these data sets that are already referenced, and one of those is the EPA gas data set. Once you click on that data set, it pulls those numbers right in, and then you're ready to start working with that data set. So this is good for anything where you might need to find your own data. You have all of these data sets right here in the textbook ready for you to use. The most common method that I use to get into StatCrunch is just to go to the StatCrunch website and then type or paste data into a blank data table, and it brings up just a basic blank spreadsheet that kind of looks like a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet. So from here, we would want to put some information in here in order to be able to compute things. So just very quickly, I'm going to throw some numbers in here so that I can show you, for instance, how to calculate a mean, a median, and a mode. So underneath of stat, you'll see we have lots of different options, and the option that I'm going to go to is summary stats, and then it's going to ask me columns or rows. Our data is in a column, so keep in mind columns go up and down and rows go across, but our data is in a column, and so I'm going to choose column, and I'm going to tell it that my data is in this first column. And then you'll notice that there are some things already highlighted here. You'll notice there are some things that are not highlighted. So it has some things pre-programmed or pre-highlighted that are over here, but if you want every statistic in this list, then what you would do is just click on that first one, hold your shift and your down arrow, and it will select all of those things, and then you just click compute. So here we have summary statistics for column 1. You have n equals 10. That's your sample size. That's how many numbers are in this data set that we made up. You have a 5.5 mean and 9.2 variance. You have your standard deviation, median, range, minimum, maximum, first quartile, third quartile. So you see you have lots of different pieces of information here. So inside chapter 2, I know these are some of the things that you've been having to compute. If we wanted to take these and just make a graph, then we could take these and we could do several different types of graphs from this graph command. So what I'm going to actually do is pull in a data set that we've been working with in the in-person class. And I have that saved here in StatCrunch. And this is just data that we have collected from people that we know. And it gives us lots of different options for doing different kinds of things. So we ask people their age, their gender, their height, their eye color, their hair color, the type of vehicle they drive, yes or no, whether they are employed, whether they prefer dogs or cats, their favorite season, whether they prefer cake or pie, and then their shoe size. So this gives us a little bit of information that we can play with, and so maybe we want to do a bar plot, and I'm going to do with data. A little piece of information about with data versus with summary. When you have all of the data, like for instance, I have let me cancel this back out for a minute. I have 36 people in this spreadsheet, so 36 males and females. That is considered having all of the data. If I wanted to use the with summary option, what I would have to do is say, okay, I have 19 males and 18, or let's say 17 females, and that actually summarizes the data so you can use with summary. But when you have all of the data, you don't need to count those options. You just go in, you choose with data, you say, okay, I'm doing the gender column, and you can do a lot of modifying or customizing here. You can change color schemes, you can do lots of labeling. Just for purposes of today, I'm going to go ahead and click on make the graph, and so we can see that we have more males than females. So your graph options are here underneath this particular graph menu, and for right now, just with chapter 2, graphs and summary stats, that's about all you've actually been using, I think. Another thing that I want to show you is from inside chapter 2, you can also access StatCrunch. So I need to find a question. Let me get this shrunk to the right size here. So I need to find a question that's going to ask us to do something with the data set. And I'm looking for something that's asking us to compute mean, median, and mode. Okay, so this is a good one to look at. So this little window here that looks like a double pane window, if you click that and you click on Open in StatCrunch, and you allow pop-ups, sorry about that, then it will bring those numbers right up in StatCrunch for you to work with, so you don't have to go back and forth and type from screen to screen. And then we would go to Stat, Summary Stats, Columns, choose your column. I usually just choose all of these things because eventually you will need them. And then you get all of your statistics that it's asking you to do. So this question is really only asking for mean and median. So there's our mean, 3.45. Here's our median of 3.65. Pay attention to rounding, because sometimes it will say 2 decimal places, 1 decimal place, 3 decimal places, and so rounding sometimes is the only thing that I see that keeps students from getting a question correct. So if we flip on through here, just to see if we have anything else that we might be able to do in StatCrunch. Of course, this is asking for mean, median, and mode, which we've already covered. Mean, median, and mode again. And all of these data tables should be able to be taken right out to StatCrunch. So I think what I'll do now, I have a couple of people here in the room with me, and I'm going to ask them if they have any questions. Do you guys have any questions?
How do you use StatCrunch to get variance and X bar and the S?
Okay, so how do we use StatCrunch to get variance and X bar and S? So I'm going to go ahead and just grab this question of data, and I don't like this question. Let's go back. Okay, grab this question. I'm going to open that up in StatCrunch. Pull this up here so we can see it in our window. And so here I have all of the values in StatCrunch, total driving performance of golfers. So I'm going to go to Stat and Summary Stats and Columns. It's in the first column. And then select all of my items. And so this gives me the mean, which is the X bar. So the X bar is the mean. There's your variance. Here's your standard deviation, which is S, sample standard deviation. And then I think range, you've dealt with range already. Mean, median, and mode. Is there anything else? So that all comes right from that summary stats command.
So basically, the StatCrunch is life.
It is. StatCrunch will make your life so much easier. You can do these by hand, but you know, it's just a little bit time consuming to do them by hand. It's good to know how to compute a mean, you know, add them all up and divide by how many is in your sample size, but StatCrunch just makes it so much faster. More we want to focus on being able to interpret what the numbers mean rather than, you know, spend a lot of time computing the numbers.
Right, so from question 30 on, I have not seen yet. I've got
Okay.
to go through those. So I don't know if I'm going to need to know something on those, like that.
Okay, so we had a question about, like, for example, number 30, a sample of 20 measurements. It's asking to compute mean, standard deviation, and variance. Okay, so that S squared is variance, the S is standard deviation. So one thing that will be helpful is maybe to make a note card of what do these symbols mean. Because when it tells you to do X bar, S squared, and S, you want to know what that actually means. So we would put these numbers out in StatCrunch.
So S squared is variance.
S squared is your variance. Variance is what you have before you take the square root to get your standard deviation. Yes.
And X bar is mean.
X bar is the mean. And these are sample statistics, because you will also see mu, which is kind of the strange little U symbol.
Mm-hmm.
And population symbols for when we work with populations.
I've also noticed, like with the homework assignments, we have to get 90% or higher in order to go to the next part.
Yes.
Sometimes it's a struggle.
It can be, and I think the reasoning behind that is just a 90% is a good solid, you know, you understand, which will hopefully guarantee you a pretty good score on the quiz. So for this question again, number 30, we have the 20 measurements in StatCrunch, and we will just do our calculation. Select all of those and compute, and so there is our mean, our variance, and our standard deviation. You are welcome.
A little bit further down, I don't know what else comes up.
Okay.
You know, from 30 on.
So mean and standard deviation of the scores. Lots of mean and standard deviation looks like. Okay. So
percentages. There we go. How do we get to percentages?
Percentiles are not something you really do in StatCrunch. So if you have not already, what I'll do, and then I'll kind of conclude up this video, point you to your lecture notes, where you will. Have you looked at these at all?
I have the actual
I've
book.
skimmed through.
You have the book, okay, and you've skimmed through. So in your sections as we go through, you'll be able to, if I get far enough along here, then you'll, so here's our symbols for sample mean, population mean. Yeah, so just kind of knowing what those are. Of course, lots of definitions, but then we will get to the section on the quartiles and what does it mean, the percentiles, and what do the percentiles mean. Here are your variance and standard deviation symbols for sample and population. So you might just on a note card make a sample and a population and put in your symbols and what they mean. But your percentiles are found in 2.7. And so things like the 90th percentile, and what that means is that 90% of the measurements are below that number and only 10% are above the number.
So do we need to use StatCrunch to graph it and then go?
You should not have to.
Okay.
So for example, there are some that are just kind of understood or some you might want to memorize. So you have your textbook and your PowerPoint calls them upper quartile and lower quartile, which is this QU and QL. If you notice when we were in StatCrunch, and I've already closed out all of our, they had it as Q1 and Q3. I've already closed out all of our results. But it's the same thing. Q1 is the same as QL and Q3 is the same as QU. The median splits your data set into basically 50-50. 50% is above it and 50% is below it. And then the lower quartile splits that 50% into 25 and 25. And your upper splits that last 50 into 25 and 25. So that's all for this video on StatCrunch. As we go along, I will try to do some more videos to help you with StatCrunch. I'm going to be placing this video into the class for you to watch. And then if you have any questions, anything else that you need, please reach out to me and let me know. If you're struggling, I can work with you any way possible. Thank you. Bye.